Yeah, all right. We are here. We in the building. Conscious Approach live stream, December 21st. JD wins. Dogon SS is in the building. Shouts out to all of the fantasy football players out there, myself included, who have a chance to win in the playoffs but are getting wrecked by COVID-19. Also, shouts out to all of y'all non-compliant people out there because you're part of the reason why I am dealing with this. If more people were on board with doing what we can to get rid of this problem and move past it, my fantasy team would have a better chance of winning. But because so many of y'all out there want to believe that you don't have to do what you can do in order to help this thing go away, now my entire lineup is decimated, and I have to put people like Cole Beasley in my starting lineup to try and score some points to win in the playoffs. So shouts out to all of the fantasy football players out there, and shouts out to everybody who does not care about making COVID-19 go away, even though y'all will be the same people complaining about the fact that we got to deal with COVID-19. But that's a conversation for another day. Be that as it may, we are back with another live stream. Excited after a week to talk about some fun and exciting stuff going on in the world of pop culture and society and all of that kind of stuff. First up, we're going to talk about Travis Hunter and his defection to Jackson State University. That's what I call it, the Great Defection. It's funny. I'm a graduate of Florida State University, so it's funny to see the devastation that people are experiencing because Travis Hunter is not here anymore because he's going to Jackson State University. People, even in this day and age, in 2021, when it has become so clear that college football is not about amateurism or sanctimony and that it is about business and money, people still get so emotionally attached to these college football programs. And I find it very entertaining to watch how emotionally distraught they become when stuff like this happens. Even when it affects my own school, my own alma mater, I still think it's funny. So anybody who isn't aware, Travis Hunter was the #1 overall recruit in the country out of high school. He was set and committed to come to Florida State University, but at the 25th hour, Deion Sanders and Jackson State University pulled him away. And there was a $1.5 million NIL deal that was a part of getting him pulled away. $1.5 million name, image, and likeness. That was a part of the equation that factored into why he eventually chose to decommit from Florida State and go to Jackson State. So there's a lot of ways to kind of look at this particular story. There's the sports angle. There is the HBCU angle, which is a big thing. A lot of people are happy with this because there's the belief that it signifies a transition in terms of how recruits view where they choose to sign. There's perhaps a renaissance that could be potentially taking place where more high-level recruits are going to commit to HBCUs over the traditional schools, especially in the Power Fives, which has a lot of people excited because there is this renewed interest in HBCUs in light of what happened last year. So there's various ways to kind of tackle this, but nevertheless, we thought we'd talk about it because it's not something that happens often when you get the #1 recruit to decommit from a D1 program, much less a Power 5, to go to an HBCU. So what did you think about Travis Hunter decommitting and going to Jackson State?
I thought it was pretty significant, man. I'm actually trying to find out when he was born, what his sign would be.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole dynamic was interesting to me. Um, I'm happy for the guy. I was proud of him for doing it. The NCAA or how the NCAA reacted to it, namely people like Dabo Sweeney and others, just making comments basically saying that basically like the integrity of the game is leaving. But honestly, they're to call what the NCAA was doing to those athletes, um, traditional and right and fair is also inaccurate. So
It's
right
not
now,
even inaccurate. It's laughable.
yeah,
That is
and so
laughable.
and so for these people to be complaining about him, because there's people complaining about the deal or the perceived deal, or because I don't know what the actual figure is, but I'm pretty sure he got paid to go there, right? So, but if he went to any other school, he would be getting paid to go to those schools too, outside of the NIL deals. And so this is my thing is like when it comes to athletes getting paid to go to these schools and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I don't care what they say. Schools like Ohio State, Alabama, uh, USC, these big time programs. Uh, I'm pretty sure there's some level of compensation that goes on. Maybe not for all of the athletes, because some people just go to Ohio State just because. But for those athletes that are between a few schools, but they're 5-star athletes, and you feel as though they're transcendent, and this guy can transform your O line by getting them over there. I'm pretty sure there's extra incentive that goes on for those guys. So I feel like Travis Hunter is no different, just in the age of broadcasting the deals. This just got broadcasted.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel as though, it is what it is. It was used as leverage. Deion and them was already working with Barstool, so it was a nice, it worked in concert. And I think how, like you were saying, with the HBCU angle, you know, given the what's happened in the last recent years or what have you, where Black people are becoming more self-aware, I guess, and trying to be more cultural, if you will, and trying to find culture outside of the supply culture that's been given to us. So HBCUs have had a resurgence also within television too. So television has been doing a better job of showing HBCUs. I think that's also in the light of what the stuff that's been going on socially. So
It's exactly why. It's because of
right,
that.
and
Yeah.
so them showing and broadcasting games outside of that, outside of Deion Sanders, but even Deion and Eddie George, just going over there and coaching over there. I just feel as though it's a nice vibe. I like seeing it. I wanted to see competitive HBCU football. I did. And so I feel as though there's more attention being shown over there, not just from the media standpoint, but just from people in general. I think people are just looking over there a little bit more. The media is not hurting. The exposure is definitely not hurting. And so definitely young athletes would be more inclined to go to HBCUs instead of going to that Division 3 school or that community college situation. They can just go to a HBCU and start, you know. So I feel as though that'd be a nice little situation. What's going on with HBCUs, and I like this Travis Hunter situation. And the reason why I was looking up his like when he was born, because the whole reason he was going to Florida State didn't even make sense. It was emotional there.
I
He
think his
just
mom
liked.
went there. I think his mom. I think there's a family connection. I think his mom. Someone went there
Mhm,
in his family,
mhm.
I believe, and so that's where it was. I think it was his mother. I think his mom went to Florida State, and I believe I might be misquoting. I think his mom was an athlete at
Okay.
Florida State, so I think that was why. I think that was the
Wow.
big connection there.
Because I was,
Yeah,
because my thing was like, I don't even see why he wants to go there in the first place. And he was like, "Oh
yeah.
yeah, I'm going to Florida State," and I said that seemed like an emotional decision. And it was
Mhm.
like, the main reason why it made me say that was because of the record that they had, even when he was committed the first time. I mean, the record that nothing indicated that this school was going to be doing anything in the near future, and yet and still, he was still committed and saying all the right things of being committed to Florida State, and everything that he said to me seemed emotionally based. It didn't seem like he wanted to go to Florida State outside of an emotional reason. Is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And so, with that being said, him making this decision to do this HBCU thing sounds like another emotional decision. This kid's just making decisions off emotions. He is.
Yeah.
And this sounds good. It sounds like he's going to be, but honestly, he's already made a name for himself. And so if you want to brand yourself as being somebody that's not just this is how I could have played out. Travis Hunter was going to be a 5-star athlete who plays a Power 5 school. Everybody knows his name. He's this, he's that. He gets drafted in the first round because he runs a fast 40 or whatever. Whether or not his college career was productive or not, he's still getting drafted in the first round, right? So that was already a given for his life, but he would have just been some regular 5-star athlete had he just went to Florida State or any other school. But him making this decision is setting him apart. So now, not only is he the guy that one of the first guys, the pioneer guys, to take advantage of this NIL situation to get $1 million deal out of it, but also the guy to stonewall a Power 5 to go to a HBCU. And so he'll be forever known as that guy, even if he transfers 2 years from now, do some transfer portal stuff, and then goes to Ohio State to actually try to win a championship over there. I'm not going to be surprised if he's going to be the first athlete to try to win one in the SWAC and then try to win one in the MAC, all right, or the Big Ten, right? So, all in all, I'm here for it. I feel like it's good for the sport. I feel like it's good for HBCUs. I'm not an NIL hater. I'm not a transfer portal hater. I can see where the concerns are coming from, but this was inevitable. This was going to happen at some point. And, this is how it looks. I feel like these things will get a lot more refined and cleaned up in the future. But overall, I like where college football is going. I like the fact that these guys are getting paid, for something. So that's how I feel about it, more or less.
Yeah. So overall, I'm happy for him individually because one of the big things that I care about is Black and brown people having the means to secure financial freedom by whatever means necessary. It's a big principle that I cling to in life in general. And so obviously in America today, the largest percentage of Black and probably brown people too at this point who have the opportunity to obtain financial freedom are those who can do it through professional sports or entertainment. That's the way America works today still. By percentage, most Black and most non-white people who can find financial freedom are going to have to do so within the vehicles of sports and entertainment. In this case, we're talking about sports. So overall, the more rich Black people who exist, the better. That's just, bottom line, that's all I care about. I just want to see more Black people getting rich legally, so that, the more Black people who become rich, who are not also risking becoming killed or incarcerated, the better. So from that standpoint, the direction that college football and college sports in general is going in is good because it means we will have more Black people who have the opportunity to obtain financial freedom. Because the way NIL works is you'll have college athletes who at best might have marginal professional careers, but will still be college stars. And so they have the opportunity to take advantage of a lot of these outlets to start building generational wealth, even in college. And so therefore, even if some of these guys who go on to the pros and fizzle out, guys who get there, undrafted players who don't have much of a career, drafted players whose careers end because of injury, drafted players who are highly touted but end up being busts, whatever the case may be, guys who aren't able to play a sustained professional career and make millions of dollars doing that will still have the opportunity to plant the seeds of generational wealth and financial freedom in college with the direction that the sport is moving in. So from that standpoint, seeing Travis Hunter take advantage of a $1.5 million deal to go to Jackson State makes me happy because we have yet another young Black person who is going to have a realistic opportunity to obtain financial freedom so long as he continues to make good decisions and not mess it up. So from that standpoint, I'm happy. I also don't care about people like Dabo Swinney and others complaining about what these guys are doing. I am a firm believer in individuals being compensated in a manner that is commensurate with the contribution that they make to the overall conglomerate. So if you are a 5-star athlete, if you're a premier player, and your play has a lot to do with the success of the team and therefore the success of the game and therefore the success of the sport, you deserve to be paid what is commensurate with that contribution. Period. There isn't a human being on this earth who is going to disagree with that. And you know how I know that? Because how many people do you know, and this can even be you yourself, how many people do you know who work a full-time job, who produce at a high level, who does not feel like they deserve to be paid what is commensurate with that contribution? There isn't a single adult who works who doesn't feel that way. If I work at a law firm, if I'm an engineer, if I'm a scientist, if I work in a lab, if I work at Google, wherever it is, if I produce at a high level and I'm looking around the landscape of my industry and I'm seeing other people who do less than me get paid more than me, I'm going to feel some type of way about that. I am going to feel like I deserve to be paid what is commensurate with my contribution. If I am an architect and I work on this project that brings millions of dollars into my architecture firm, I believe that I should be compensated in a manner that is commensurate with my contribution. If everyone can agree to that, why are we having a problem with college athletes being paid? It doesn't make sense. It's illogical, and it just shows people's hypocrisies. It's another way to expose people's hypocrisies. Mm-hmm. We can all agree we deserve to be paid what is commensurate with our contribution. The game is as popular as it is because of the players. As great and phenomenal and as much of a genius of a coach as Nick Saban is, if he does not have John Mechie, if he does not have what's the name of the quarterback who just won the Heisman Trophy?
Bryce Young.
If Julio Jones ain't there, if Calvin Ridley ain't there, if Derrick Henry ain't there, he ain't winning no national championships. He has the best players. The players matter more than the coaching, period. So at the end of the day, players deserve to be paid what is commensurate with their contribution. That is why NIL and the transfer portal and all of this stuff is great. And the only people who are complaining about it are people who are on the other end of players seeking out opportunities, like Dabo Swinney, who ain't getting no Travis Hunter because he went to Jackson State. Right? So those are the people who complain about it. Let him be the beneficiary of a guy who leaves another school to come to Clemson. Dabo Swinney ain't going to be complaining. So you can miss me with all of that whining and all of that about how bad it is for the integrity of the game. You can miss me with all of that, because how much integrity existed in the game before all of this stuff became legal, when these guys were getting envelopes with $5,000-$10,000 cash in, exactly. and the university was finding loopholes to buy them Cadillacs and all of these other kind of cars and stuff. You're going to tell me that was integrity? Of course not. Mm-hmm. So all it is just being brought to the light. It's legal. It's okay now. People just need to get over it and move on. At the very least, what people are going to have to learn how to do is remove your emotions from college sports. Treat it like a business. Bet on it, gamble with it, try to make money with it, treat it like you do the NFL, because that is what this is. It is a farming semi-pro system for professional football. Period. College football has always been that way. It will always be that way. A lot of y'all small town people who love your college football program so much, this is new information to you. And remember what we talked about last week. Whenever people receive new information, there's a resistance to it because they've never seen it before. So the knee-jerk reaction to it is to sort of get mad at it, to not like it because it's new. Whatever the case may be, you're going to have to get used to it. It's here to stay. And as you get used to it, you'll get over it. And it's not going to be something that you think is just the worst thing in the world. So that's how I feel about that angle of it. Now, when it comes to the HBCU part, this part, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I've been watching college football long enough that at this point, I don't see a scenario where HBCUs are going to rise to prominence in such a way that they're going to rival Power Fives. I just don't see that personally. I mean, as many of these guys like Travis Hunter that end up going to HBCUs, there's going to be so many more of these 5 stars who still going to go to Alabama, Florida State, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma. You know, you got Oklahoma and Texas A&M. Well, Texas A&M already in the SEC. Oklahoma is going to the SEC. I think Texas is also going to the SEC. So you know, it's still going to be USC, Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Florida. You know, Alabama. You take your pick. Clemson. It's still going to be that, I feel. So at the end of the day, it boils down to what do you prioritize as a high-level recruit. Do you care about maximizing your individual opportunity, or do you care about being a part of that atmosphere where you get to be a star player who's in the Michigan State game, who's in the Ohio State Michigan game, who's in the Alabama Georgia game? If you care about being a part of that environment, then you're still going to be somebody who, despite this social wave that we're on, you're still want to consider going to one of those traditional Power Fives. It just is the way it is. But if you say bump all of that, it's about my individual opportunity and how I can best maximize my chances to reach success at the highest level, both in terms of social notoriety and monetarily, as well as still get the chance to be able to perform. Then, of course, those other HBCUs and other schools like that become a more enticing option, because, you know, whatever the case may be, if you end up going to Jackson State, but you can get agents and these other corporate advertisers to sponsor you for $1.5 million. Okay, I can go to Alabama and contend for national championships, or I can go to Jackson State and become an instant millionaire. So it's all about what you value. I do agree with you that. I missed my point. I do agree with you that when you go to an HBCU, I do agree with you that when you go to an HBCU, you'll still be drafted in the first round if you're a 5-star recruit. That's going to happen no matter what. No one's going to say because this guy's numbers were down because he was in an HBCU, it must mean he's not as good as we thought. That's stupid. So you're still going to be drafted in the first round. However, if you do go to an HBCU or any of these other conferences, the MAC and the SWAC and all of that, you're going to be playing with guys who aren't that good. You're going to be playing with teams that don't have a good quarterback. So your numbers are not going to be the same as they would have been had you gone to Alabama or somewhere else. That is going to factor into whether you get drafted as a lottery pick or whether you're just a first-round draft pick. That is going to matter. So from that standpoint, it's all about weighing your options. It's all about opportunity costs. Stage and opportunity to contend for national championships and be a lottery pick versus instant millionaire status, social notoriety. You can still perform at a high level and be a first-round pick, but you don't get the benefit of being on that big stage. I don't ever see a time where we will be on Saturday night ABC primetime game watching Jackson State versus whomever, and it has national championship or college football playoff implications. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't foresee that being the case. But in terms of all of the intrinsic value that a move like this has, I'm right there with you. At the end of the day, it's just all about, as an individual, what do you value and where do you see yourself going in order to maximize on that potential value.
I agree, but I kind of said the same thing before when I was talking about HBCUs and athletes going to HBCUs, but I was talking about more for basketball. So football is a much different animal. And college football, you know, in NFL is 53-man roster. College football is 70, 80 guys out there. Yeah. And all 70 or 80 of those guys better be good, because if they're not, you're not winning nothing. Basketball, you only need 5 good guys.
Right. In college more so, yeah.
Yeah.
In the NBA, you can just get 1 or 2 good guys.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, that's because everybody else is decent. So you just need really 1 or 2 good guys. But in college basketball, you can stack a team of 5 good guys. The bench could be whatever. You know, 2 of the guys could come off the bench. Yeah. And then wreck shop off the bench. And then whatever. And then, you know, they could contend for a national championship if 5 5-star guys go to a HBCU. That's a thing. I feel like that can happen.
Right.
I'm waiting for that.
Right.
Travis Hunter is one man. In a day and age where guys aren't even staying at the schools the whole time, I don't even know if he's going to be there the whole time. He might do 2 years and bounce, and then go to a big conference or a big school. I wouldn't recommend that, especially if he did take some steps back from playing against less competition, and then you go for 1 year to be one and done. That might mess up your draft stock. So I hear what Deion's trying to do.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
I hear it. I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to rival Alabama, but in HBCU. I get that premise, but the talent gap is so large that what he's ended up doing, because they went like 12-1 this year or something. They're already there. They're already there in HBCU world where they're already getting all the best guys. And so they're going to just go undefeated year after year is all this means, which is cool, but y'all just going to be the untouchable team in HBCU football.
Right.
I don't think this is going to correlate, and I hope it does.
You'd like to see it, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see this go amongst other schools, and other schools put as much enthusiasm behind it as Deion is and Jackson State is doing. But I don't think that's the story. I feel like this is a flash in a pan. I'm hoping that it's not, but this is feeling real flash in a panty because it took everybody by shock. And the reason why it took people by shock is because it's not rooted in something outside of the $1.5 million and Deion and
that's Pete. Those are the two main things was the NIL deal and Deion Sanders. That's what it was. That's what it was sort of attributed to.
Yeah, and so that's not really a strong foundation. Because when you do listen, I get it, man. I get why guys go to Alabama. Because if you're a 5-star athlete, if you're a high 4-star athlete and you go to Alabama, you're going to the NFL. If you played, if you got on the field and you played, if you're good enough to start at Alabama,
bro, like just Cardale Jones, remember him? Cardale Jones didn't play the whole year. He backed up. He went to Ohio State several years ago. He backed up. I forget who he backed. It was either Braxton Miller or JT Barrett. It was one of those two who was the starter. They got hurt. Cardale Jones came in and played maybe one or two of the remaining regular season games, won their playoff game, and then won the national championship. Cardale Jones was talked about as a lottery pick in the NFL draft because of that. He got drafted. Does anybody remember what Cardale Jones did in the NFL?
I barely remember the name.
But that's to your point, though.
Yeah.
But that happened because he was at Ohio State. Ohio State is good. Like in college, one thing that's different about college and the NFL. In the NFL, if your quarterback is bad, you're dead. In college football, if you have high-performing skill position players and a good defense, you can still win a national championship, even if your quarterback plays mediocre. So, like, Cardale Jones shows up. Ohio State has all of these great players on offense and defense. They win a national championship. Cardale Jones gets drafted. That's a perfect sort of example of what it is that you're describing with that. Yeah. That can potentially happen when you go to these schools like Ohio State and Alabama. Not necessarily the case with the other side of it with the HBCU thing.
Well, you have to be exceptional over there, like anybody. So that's anybody that plays Division II football or anything like that. You have to be exceptional. You have to put up ridiculous numbers over there. So it already helps that he was already a 5-star athlete,
right?
So everybody already knew who he was going over there. So that's cool. And so I've seen it. There's guys that were 5-star athletes, went to schools like USC or something like that, where they don't develop. So the reason why I brought up Alabama is you get developed at Alabama. I've seen Alabama practices. It's practice. Those guys are practicing. That's NFL stuff. That's NFL level practice they're doing out there. And it's intense and it's real. And of course they pop out on the other side as athletes.
Yeah.
And ready for NFL practices, and they go out there and they do their jobs.
Right.
And so I'm very impressed of how those guys are turned into professionals once they go to Alabama. But versus other schools like Texas and other schools that have like big numbers of 5-star athletes in the past few decades and have no first round picks to show of it. You know what I'm saying? And so there are schools where 5-star athletes go and get lost. So that's the thing too. So I'm hoping that he doesn't get lost out there talent wise, where it's not cultivated the right way. I understand that Deion's going to push him personally to be the best version of himself. All right, but when you're out there and you're playing against B court players, everybody's B court. There's nobody good here. Everybody that's here that played in Division I is over here now. They're over here now, and they're not over here because of they wanted to be. They're over here because they couldn't play in Division I.
Yeah.
So you're playing against B court people. So when you're playing against B court people, you better be putting up triple doubles. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if this is college.
Yeah.
And so when he's out there, he's going to play both ways. As Deion said, he told him he's going to play both sides. So he's got to put up numbers. I mean, first, like I said, so I've seen guys go to USC or wherever. They get lost on the bench. They play sporadically here or there, but they still go in the first round because they were a 5-star athlete. I've seen guys that were in this past recent draft went to Alabama, 5-star athlete. He had so many knocks on him. He was just a Leatherwood, a lineman. He had so many knocks on him about how, hey man, they're more polished than this guy. They're this, they're that. I think it was the Raiders. They still hopped in and just grabbed the guy. He's a 5-star that went to Alabama.
Yeah.
We're not going to have another one of those guys on our line. Get him over here. You just grab him.
Yeah.
So he's going to be Travis Hunter. Oh, yeah, you remember him. The guy that was everybody consensus. You know, basically this guy can be one and done and play in the NFL if he wanted to. You know, you remember that guy. Yeah. He went to HBCU. So did he put up big numbers over there? No. But I can guarantee you what, they're going to win national championships over there so he's going to have that on his resume. He's going to have all those other things, and he was MVP of the team and all that stuff. So his storyboard is going to look sexy enough. But I'm with you. I hope he gets it. You know, because there's nothing like getting hit by another 5-star athlete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I get it, bro. It's like he's going to play both sides. So you're not going to get hit by a 5-star linebacker.
Right.
But when you go in the NFL, you're going to get hit by a 6-star athlete.
Right.
Because he's beyond the 5-star at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's more or less my concern for him. I hope he stays his whole duration there. I think it'll look kind of wonky if he just do 2 years in Buck or 1 year in Buck. Like, I don't know what that's going to look like. As far as optically, but I hope he does his whole term there, whether it's 3 years and he's gone or whatever. But in today's day and age, I wouldn't be surprised if he transferred. Yeah. In any event, I still wish the best for this guy. I'm happy for him. Man, I'm still a Rattler. I'll be cheering for them, but except when they play FAMU.
Right. Well, yeah, if he transfers, it's going to undermine the symbolism that is being attached to this. It's going to completely undermine it. So
that's what I'm getting at. It's going to be a bad look.
It will be, yeah. And, hopefully that does not happen. But, if there is, if the tea leaves start to fall, that is a possibility. Hopefully there's someone around him who says, like, hey, man, look, don't do this. Not necessarily going to be good for your personal brand. And these days, that is a part of the equation as well. The guy he's already an instant millionaire as a freshman in college. Personal branding is going to matter. Everybody who likes this thing, well, a good portion of the people who like this are attaching a semblance of symbolism to it with the whole HBCU thing. So that will be completely undermined if he transfers. So it's in his best interest to stay there, which is what made the decision to make the move in the first place as consequential as it was.
Yeah.
Because that's like a marriage that you can't get a divorce from. Or rather you can, but if you do, it's going to really cost you.
It's going to look crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. Just stay there. Do 3 years and just declare for the draft, bro.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're not winning national championships there anyway. It's not going to happen. You might win whatever conference Jackson State is in. they'll contend for that.
Yeah, they'll
But
win their HBCU championships,
yeah,
but they're
yeah,
not.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's not going to be anything beyond that. You know that going in, so it's almost like a you know what you signed up for type deal. So just do your 3 years and then declare for the draft because you'll still get drafted in the first round
exactly.
no matter what. So
Exactly.
yeah, I definitely would recommend that he stays there. But yeah, I'm with you on all of that, man. And good luck to him. He's still going to do his thing, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's a difference between playing DB against a quarterback who spent 1 or 2 years in community college and is now at Jackson State versus you trying to you
play
match
against
up
the
against a
guy.
5-star receiver or somebody like this in a power. It's just it's a whole different ball game.
You're playing against the guy at Ohio State or Oregon who's going to be the quarterback in the Super Bowl that you play in the NFL.
Yeah.
So you might as well get this experience now in college because he's good like that now.
Yeah.
And so whoever that guy is, that's the part about it that he's going to be missing out on.
Mhm.
That's the part where I wish where he can be still sharper than steel in that capacity, so he can actually be testing his talents against the best talent in the nation. But
yeah,
it is what it is. Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck, Brody.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck to you, certainly. But all right, so we'll go ahead on and move from that topic, and we are going to move on to something that has a whole lot of meat on it, man. So, singer Billie Eilish, she's a real popular singer now. Admittedly, I do not know much about her music. I know who she is, don't know much about her music, but I do know she's really, really popular. And she was recently on the Howard Stern show, and she talked about how watching porn at an early age wrecked her brain, quote unquote. Now, this to me is a big deal, and I'll explain why once we play what she had to say, because I think that it is very, very, I think her comments are telling in terms of where we are going as a society. But she made these comments last week on the Howard Stern show. So we'll go ahead. There's no video. Well, there's probably video somewhere, but I'm not trying to get hit with no copyright. And Howard Stern show is a big deal. So we have the audio. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to play the audio of what she had to say, and then we're going to talk about it on the back end. So you can go ahead and hit that.
All right, cool.
But anyway, I was an advocate, and I thought I was one of the guys and would talk about it and think it was really cool for not having a problem with it and not seeing why it was bad. And I think it really destroyed my brain, and I feel incredibly devastated that I was exposed to so much porn. I think that I had like sleep paralysis and these like almost like night terrors / just nightmares because of it. I think that's how they started, because I would just watch abusive, BDSM, and that's what I thought was attractive, and I just didn't. It got to a point where I couldn't watch anything else, like unless it was violent. I didn't think it was attractive, and I was a virgin. I had never done anything, and so it led to problems where the first few times I had sex, I was not saying no to things that were not good, and it's because I thought that that's what I was supposed to be attracted to, and I'm so angry that porn is so loved, and I'm so angry at myself for thinking that it was okay, and it just is the way that like vaginas look in porn is fucking crazy. No vaginas look like that.
Okay, we hit the 3-minute mark. My bad. I was still listening. I'm like, oh man, this shit,
yeah.
Wow. What's she talking about?
Yeah. So this to me, and this, there's an ongoing thing with me about how I feel about this kind of stuff. I'm just gonna start. There's a deep. I'm gonna try and be as concise as possible with my takeaway from what she had to say, because it represents a larger problem, in my opinion, than people being sort of just merely addicted to porn, right?
Mhm.
So we talk often about how the state of modern relationships are in peril, right? So we've talked about that.
Mhm.
Now, the state of relationships are in peril for two reasons. One of those reasons are they're sort of at the head of one of those reasons. You have women who are responsible for the behavior, and at the head of the other reason, you have men who are responsible for the behavior. Now, let's start with the head that women are responsible for, because that's less relevant to this particular topic, but still we need to provide context either way. So women are responsible for the current state of women are responsible today for relationships being in a state of peril, because they have become so highly specialized with respect to who they make themselves available to, that they are disqualifying such a large percentage of men who would otherwise not be disqualified by them. They're living their lives through the prism of the internet and social media. They live these fantasy worlds where they believe that they're entitled to a certain caliber of man and lifestyle that represents a very small percentage of what's actually out there, that it disqualifies them from being in good relationships with a large percentage of guys who can provide for them, just not at the fantastical level that they want to be provided for. So I call it hypergamy, but the inflation version. Hypergamy has been inflated in the modern day sense. Hypergamy has always existed in ancient civilizations, in previous generations. The strongest, fittest, smartest men who could provide were the ones who got to procreate and reproduce. This is nothing new. Hypergamy has always existed. But in previous generations, hypergamy meant that I am a woman who wants to be with a guy who is good with his hands, who's masculine, who's smart and intelligent, who makes good financial decisions, and who's stable and makes good money. We can provide a good life for ourselves if I am able to get a guy who does that. In previous generations, that is what hypergamy was. That has evolved into the current modern form of hypergamy, which is I need a guy who is 6'4", who makes $300,000 a year, who can take me to the mall and drop thousands of dollars on me on Birkin bags and red bottles, and then put me on a private jet and fly me halfway across the world, because these are the things that I hear in my music and see on social media. So that is what I want now in my relationship, because it must be so plentiful. There must be so much of it out there. That is what I want for myself. So, the pendulum of the practice of hypergamy has swung in such an extreme direction that it is causing this absence of functional relationships that are occurring, because you have such a large percentage of women who are excluding a majority of the percentage of men who could be providers for them, but their perception of what providing means has just taken on an entirely new form. So on the women's end, that's what we're dealing with. But what's most important, what I took away from Billie Eilish's comments, is what is happening on the men's end, where Billie Eilish talks about porn wrecking her brain. The difference between porn wrecking her brain and porn wrecking the brain of a man are two completely different things. And here's what I mean by that. So Billie Eilish can have her brain wrecked by porn, but she still stands the chance of being able to obtain relationships and sexual relationships, because by the merit of her being a woman, all she has to do is exist, and she can still be approached, accosted, asked out, DM'd, whatever the case may be, by men who are interested in her. Therefore, she still stands the chance of being able to find herself in a relationship, and therefore the success of that on her end merely boils down to her being able to sort of work her way through whatever mental hangups she may have as a result of the fact that she watched porn in the way that she did for as long as she did. Now, as a guy, it's a completely different story. Guys who end up on this stuff they experience, you talk about wrecking the brain. Guys who spend such an inordinate amount of time being consuming this type of content, especially at an early age, we reach the point where there's a such thing, in my opinion, as social atrophy. So atrophy in and of itself is a term that means it essentially means you lose it if you don't use it. So, a basic example of atrophy is if I grow up and if I'm born and I never learn how to use my left hand, as I get older and I never learn how to use my right hand essentially becomes like a limp part of my body. You might as well cut it off because my brain never developed the necessary neurons and all the various mental faculties that are needed in order for you to be able to make use of your right hand. If you never had to use your right hand as a baby, as a toddler, in the adolescence, when you get older, you might as well cut the hand off because there's no use for it to you. Social atrophy is the same thing as that, but the social version of it. If as a young kid and as a young man, you're growing up and your perception of women and sex and all of that kind of stuff is porn, combined with the fact that you're not developing the necessary social skills to actually be successful with women in person because you think that the way that your approach to women should be is that through DMing women on the internet and social media and messaging them on these apps, but not actually engaging in person-to-person communication. When you combine these elements, you're now dealing with entire generations of men who are growing up with social atrophy, not gaining the practical skills necessary to be able to communicate with women face-to-face, in person, in an effective way that lend themselves to you being able to get into relationships and actually have sex with these people. So what we have, and the thing about this to me that's scary is this affects not just this doesn't affect just the young people, bro. Our generation is caught up in this as well. It's millennials, it's Gen Zers, and all of these other generations that are below us who are saying, I don't actually have to go out into the world and try and develop the skills necessary to meet women in my own right. I am just going to relegate myself to subscribing to OnlyFans pages, DMing women on Instagram, messaging them on Snapchat, and trying to get their attention on TikTok. You're phasing yourself out because the men who do have the practical skills, though they might be in the minority because the opposite is growing in sort of prevalence, they're going to have the greatest chances possible to actually be able to procreate. And do you know what's not happening when you spend your nights on OnlyFans and Instagram and Pornhub? There's something that's not taking place when you're doing these things. Women getting pregnant. Women aren't getting pregnant when you're spending your nights doing this stuff. And it isn't even just about women getting pregnant, because we don't want a bunch of babies being born into dysfunctional situations. But as a man, your goal should be, how can I actually get into a physical space with this woman so that I can actually physically have sex with her? Not just this overabundance of these guys who are developing social atrophy by spending inordinate amounts of time donating their hard-earned dollars to some random chick's OnlyFans page who doesn't give any two shits about them. So this type of stuff scares me because, as I've said before in the past, I think we're staring down the barrel of, number one, involuntary celibacy, and number two, voluntary infertility. Involuntary celibacy because you have a lot of guys who are trying to figure out the best possible way for them to be able to interact with women, but are simply being disqualified from doing so because you have so many women who are practicing hypergamy, if you will. And then on the other hand, you have guys who are practicing voluntary infertility because you are knowingly recusing yourself from the possibility of actually being able to create a legacy, actually being able to have sex with women, actually being able to put yourself in a physical space to communicate and be in relationships with women at a digestible pace. Mm-hmm. And there's this movie out there called Children of Men. It's an old movie. It came out in, I think, 2006. and it's based off a book. And in this movie, it depicts a dystopian future where basically the world is coming to an end because of worldwide infertility. People have lost the ability to procreate and have children. I think it was because of a pandemic or a virus. Something took place that basically made the human race incapable of reproducing. I think that we are slowly headed in that direction. And as we continue to rely more and more on things like social media to meet each other and OnlyFans, because you got these guys who don't care, they'll spend hundreds if not thousands of dollars on OnlyFans a year. The more that we continue to do this, the more and more we are going to stare down the barrel of voluntary infertility until at some point we, birth ourselves out of existence. That's what I call it. And it's no wonder why we have this issue of all of the women only being sexually active with like 10 to 30% of the men. In other words, at the most, you have 30% of the men who are having all the sex with 100% of the women. That's because that other 70% of men is either involuntary celibate for reasons that are beyond their control, or because they are just sort of recusing themselves from having actual sexual activity because they'd rather just spend money subscribing to OnlyFans. I don't give a shit what anybody says. DMing chicks on Instagram, messaging them on Snapchat is not as effective when it comes to meeting them as having good social skills and having confidence in yourself to be able to procure these relationships and these interactions on an in-person basis, by hook or by crook, whatever the case may be. It's just this situation is becoming more and more perverse as the days and the years and the months pass. But whereas Billie Eilish can say porn wrecked my brain, she still stands the chance of being successful in relationships because by the merit of her existence as a woman, she'll still get approached by guys who are learning how to do it the way of I have adequate social skills, as opposed to these guys who go down the same road as Billie Eilish. Women aren't going to just approach you. You're still going to have to do what you need to do in order to be able to acquire these relationships. And the more that you numb yourself into lack of activity because you're doing all of this new age technological stuff where you're doing OnlyFans and all of this weirdo stuff, the less likely you're going to be able to gain an opportunity to be able to do that for yourself. And look, man, I'm not here to be the guy who's trying to bash porn and all of that kind of stuff. We all have our vices. There's nothing wrong with porn in healthy doses. I'm not trying to say porn is overall a bad thing. I don't think that. But what we're seeing here is we got these kids who are saying, they're not developing those basic fundamental skills at the age in which they need to be developing them, bro. And instead, it's being replaced by OnlyFans subscriptions. That can't be a good thing. I don't care what anybody says. No one is going to be able to argue to me that that is actually a positive. So the more and more that we sort of mainstream these various forms of content and media, the worse off we're going to be as a society, because we are essentially, as far as I can tell, going to birth ourselves out of existence. It is either going to be that or we are going to accept westernized polygamy, because at a certain point, it's going to be one man to every 10 women, and that's how we're going to accept this thing. So it's either one or the other, so take your pick. But that was what I took away from what Billie Eilish had to say. She is, as much as she can acknowledge how bad it was on her psyche, with in terms of how she kind of got into this whole thing with the whole porn watching stuff. She needs to be thankful that she nevertheless still had the opportunity to have boyfriends and relationships and have sex. Because the same can't be said for a guy who has dozens of OnlyFans subscriptions and is constantly liking and swiping right and commenting on photos and videos on Instagram, trying to, get women's attention on social media and the internet.
Agreed. I say it's a lot with this one. And I say, to touch on her point, I would say that it is impressive for her to be aware of her addiction at such a young age, uh, being 20 years old and being aware of the impact that pornography has had on her life at such a young age is impressive to me. For her to talk about it at that angle is impressive. Because you will run into people who are twice her age and been watching it twice as long that are going to justify that filth, right? So pornography is one of those things. To me, it is a vice. It is something akin to. It's not going to overtly kill you like cigarettes will. All right, but it'll take your life force in other ways. Um, so I think it's more of a spiritual situation where if you watch that stuff unfiltered, it will throw you off and you won't be as balanced as you need to be to deal with life because you want some other shit sexually.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just not centered, and you're going to find yourself engaging in activities that are like how she was saying, basically like, hey, she was doing sex acts and stuff like that well, she thought was normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, that's not normal. Like, people don't do that.
Yeah.
And so she's her story is wild in the sense that she went straight to BDSM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's some 50 Shades of Grey exposure or that she just thought it was just normal. Like, okay, there's just genres of sex. So I'm just getting to BDSM. That's just like rock, right? It's like, no, it's
Yeah.
not. It's
Yeah.
not. BDSM is not that. And so BDSM is extreme stuff. To me, it's, I'm not going to use the R word, all right, but it's akin to me, it's simulated unwanted sexualization.
Mm-hmm.
It was perfected, BDSM was perfected in unwanted sexualization. So, in its essence, as a sexual form, it is that was birthed in deviance and depravity. And so for her to be introduced out the gate on that, that's what I'm saying. It's like, wow, your mind must be wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally starting on 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, there's some stuff that's a little bit wilder than that. All right. And that's, but you're starting out of 9 out of 10. And so no wonder, honestly, no wonder she got burnt out so fast.
Yeah.
This thing,
But it's good. It's good that she did get burned out instead of traversing down the rabbit hole of just getting into even weirder things because your fix is no longer because you no longer get your fix from the regular BDSM. So it's like, now I got to go even weirder. I got to go even more perverse because this is no longer doing it for me.
So here's where we're at as a culture and a society. So right now, what we're living in is, honestly, man, I'm going to say it and I don't care. People who watch pornography are exposed, and people who watch it for an extended period of time, I don't know the threshold on that, all right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they've watched it for an extended period of time, all right, they are introducing themselves into sexual deviancies.
Mm-hmm.
And so what goes on these porn sites, because, well, I visit them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you're on those websites, who are they marketing to for some of these videos? You'll see some of these gifts or some of these ads that they're showing. Who are they marketing to?
Right.
They're marketing to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And some kid who came home from school, or stepmom, or some other stuff going on where it's video games. It's real kid stuff. And I'm like, hey, I get it. Kids have access to the internet and they're going to find these websites, right? And these adult websites are grooming these children.
Yeah.
Because these are future customers.
Yeah.
And they're grooming them into the lifestyle. And so what's going on is that pornography is an industry of entertainment.
It is. Yep.
It is nothing's real there.
Mm-hmm.
So So are there professional women having sex? Yeah, there's professional women having sex, but it's entertainment. And so it's no different than WWE. Are those professional athletes who can get injured? Did some of them die wrestling? Yes. But is it entertainment though? You'll see the old heads now talk about how it's entertainment and how sometimes the entertainment got took too far or what have you. And so these ladies are entertainers. This is not real sex. There's nothing about none of this exchange that's real.
Mm-hmm.
And so for somebody that's not even putting that in the filter, you're getting yourself in trouble. You're already getting in trouble by watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then so if you don't have a filter to say, hey, this is not reality, you're getting in trouble. Because then you're going to hit the streets looking for this.
Yes. Yep.
So now there's a thing where, well, hell, everybody's doing group sex. Let me just do group sex. That looks like fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, you telling me I can fuck one girl? Oh, excuse my French. I have sex with one girl, look over, and then have sex with a whole nother girl, and it's like, oh yeah, big whoop. It's a party, right? It's a sex party. I grew up, hey, what's the big deal? I was in the locker room. I could see other guys' penis. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm not having sex with him.
Right.
I'm having sex with the girl.
Or are you?
It's nothing gay. Nothing gay going on here.
Yeah.
I see it in the flicks all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
hey, guy, hey, let's both have sex with her.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? Yeah, come on, man. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? It's not a high five, bro. This is sex. I'm not doing that. Right? But I'm gonna tell you, bro, it happened more or less in our generation.
Yeah, yes, I believe that's when it started. Yeah.
It started in ours.
Yeah.
It was still real taboo-ish for my brother's generation. But for ours, it was, hey man, don't you watch it? Everybody watches it.
Yeah.
And this was in middle school.
Yeah.
Hey, don't you watch it, bro? Everybody watches it.
Yep.
And so at this point, and that was tame stuff. That was Cinemax. That was dry humping.
Mm-hmm.
That was nothing. That's not what these kids are watching now.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to be watching this, for her to watch this and say that she got into the extreme stuff, that to me is scary, because eventually it normally is an incline, but now it's so popularized. Now it's so the norm. I mean, I remember being on Instagram and stuff like that. I was like, Facebook. I was like, this is porn.
Yeah.
At Twitter, this is porn on here.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? It's a meme. That's not a meme. This is sex.
Yeah.
What is it? So these kids were exposed to this stuff. So honestly, she was born, I had to look it up. She was born in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
She said she was 11. So that means 2012.
Yeah.
I can concur with that.
Yeah.
I can say, oh yeah, 2012 smartphones, internets, all these websites, Pornhub and all that stuff was out then.
Yeah.
So she had access to it. She's one of those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, hey man, yeah, but I didn't just start off on, oh, okay. Oh, no, I got into it. I started looking at the extreme pain stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was in all of the vomit and all that stuff too. Why not?
Yeah.
The slapping, the punching.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that wild stuff. And so it's just like, hey, look, that's not normal. And so I brought up the websites and stuff is because they're pushing these abnormal ways of sex as norms.
Mm-hmm.
These are not normal practices for sex at all. All right. I didn't say positions.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say locations. I'm talking, so you can do different positions and you can have sex outside the bedroom. So you can have spice and all this other stuff and still have a good old lifestyle.
Right.
But as soon as you start introducing other people into it,
Mm-hmm.
all the time, as soon as you start introducing, toys in areas for men.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this, bro?
Yeah.
Wade talking about how he loves, I don't know if Wade said that or Gabrielle said it or who said what Wade does with things, but he enjoys Anal stimulation. I don't know how Mario knows that, but Dwayne Wade loves anal stimulation.
I believe he did say that. Wade is kind of yeah.
No, listen. Wade is in our generation. He's a few years older, but he's from our cohort.
He is, yeah.
He's exposed to the same type of shenanigans. And so, but now my whole thing is that my problem with pornography is what I see it doing to the population, and people doing abnormal sex acts as the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And just like her situation, people are introduced to level 7 as soon as they get started.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is advanced stuff. Like, regular people don't watch this. You know, the only people that watch this stuff are into other stuff that you don't want to be in.
That you don't want to even know about. Yeah.
You don't even want to know about these things. You're starting off on the wrong stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my problem with these sites, because honestly, that seems to be what they're pushing. And they're just pushing deviancy. So there's two things going on here. There's the thing that there's the angle you're talking about, where these guys are just staying in the house and not engaging with women like you're supposed to. Hey, look, you're a man, bro. It's like sparring. You're supposed to be out there doing that all the time. You know, if you don't use it, you will lose it.
Yeah.
So you constantly, as man, have to be doing that. All right. And DMs don't count. Texts don't count.
They don't. No.
So get in the field, bro, and get dirty.
They don't.
Yeah. So there's that angle going on. And I completely agree with that. And then I will also say there's the other angle where it is having, for people that are having sex, that people are being active, they're having the wrong kinds of sex now. They're doing the wrong stuff. This is not regular stuff. I'm talking about everything new is not regular. Bro, if I am on there, I'm watching old stuff. It's like music. I'm watching old stuff. This stuff that made sense to me. I don't know what y'all doing, but this ain't it.
Yeah.
Y'all doing everything under the sun.
Well, just look at the, like, just the themes of it. Like, some of the stuff is so prevalent now, like the weird stuff where they come up with these scenarios where it's the brother and the sister, or the mom and the son. So like we have so much of this content out here that is kind of subconsciously trying to suggest that like incest is a normal sexual is a normal sexual desire, or a normal sexual sort of inclination.
It's not.
Like, it's insanity. But the thing is, like, we used to talk often about. So, like, I remember when, because, you know, it's funny you bring up music. I remember coming up listening to music, and, you know, we come from the hip hop generation. So we used to listen to the music, and as we got older and started to become more self-aware, we started to realize, like, okay, I'm a kid who grew up like middle class, lower middle class. I'm listening to this hip hop stuff. I'm not selling dope. I'm not shooting. I'm not gangbanging. I'm not going to prison. I'm not doing all of the stuff that these guys are talking about in this music. Yet I still listen to the music. Why? None of the actual direct messaging resonates with me. And what we realized is what we're trying to do, or at least what we're doing when we are listening to this music, is it's like in our brains, we sort of have a mental filter. And our filter sort of allows the stuff that does resonate with us to sort of creep into our psyche, but then it filters out the pollution that doesn't resonate with us. So while we can listen to the music and not be influenced into shooting and gangbanging and drug dealing and doing all of the crazy stuff that they're talking about. But what we can internalize is aggressiveness, you know, seeking opportunity, going for what's yours, and doing and sort of persevering through challenges. Those are all things that are inherent in the music too. So we're able to kind of separate those two things internally. When it comes to this porn stuff, it's like what we used to be able to do based on the way that it used to be with the older stuff, as you like to say, the normal stuff, was sort of acknowledge that this is entertainment, but peel away from it some of the constructive aspects of it that could be useful, right? Useful being a word, like, you know, technique and things like that, right?
Yeah, that's a dynamic.
Yeah. So, but what's happening now is there's no more, the filter is gone. Because if you're like as a human being, your brain is not developing at the normal rate that it's supposed to. So you're missing the phase in which you're learning how to develop your filter. When you're being introduced to this stuff at 9, 10 years old, and like you said, you're being introduced to it at level 7, you don't have the filter.
Yeah.
So you're at the mercy of the material, and the material is telling you this is normal life.
Yeah.
And that shit is dangerous. Not only it's dangerous in terms of the normalization of sex acts, as you put it, but it's also dangerous in terms of where we are as a society, as we continue to get more and more perverse with this stuff. We are now fully entrenched in what is now at least 2 to 3 generations of what I perceive to be men who are simply not developing the adequate social skills to be able to continue the legacy, to be able to keep the thing going. It's gonna be completely normal to find more and more 40, 50, 60-year-old guys who are just childless. Yeah. Not because they chose to be, but because they never developed the skills necessary to actually get with a woman to reproduce.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? And when we talk about the chaotic state of modern relationships, this is a part of it.
No, it's a part of it.
Yeah, this is a part of it because number one, you can't go into a relationship thinking that this is what is something that you should expect. Number two, you're not even trying to get a relationship. You're not even trying to secure the relationship, period, anyway, because your relationship is your phone and your tablet. And so when you're not actually trying to obtain these relationships physically, because you're just left with sort of your OnlyFans subscriptions, the combination of these two things is creating an environment in which less and less people are having sex, less and less people are in relationships, therefore less and less people are getting married, less and less kids are being born. This is what we're dealing with here.
It's so I agree. And so here's how it goes, right? Older women. So when I say older women, I'm talking our age. So 30 plus.
Yeah.
They're not doing certain sex acts where bodily fluids are going towards their face. They're not doing that. Hell, they're giving you hassle for giving you head.
Yeah.
It's hassle for that. Like,
it's conditional,
yeah, you have to file paperwork so you can get some of that. So that's for 30 plus, but that's always been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But not for the younger ones. So for the younger ones, that's what they've been seeing since they were kids. So they think that's normal. So they do it. So my nephew, he's 23. The stories he tells me, I'm like, y'all do what? Yeah. And she did that. I said, she did that? I'm like, bro, I haven't found that yet. I'm 30, I'm 35, 36. Yeah, y'all just doing it like that? Yeah, it's normal. Which you're not doing that? Like, no, I'm not doing that, bro. Like, women my age, they still think that's disrespectful. So that's not part of the sex act for us. That's me being disrespectful towards her. So I don't know what I gotta do. I don't know how many bills I gotta pay to do that and not have no problems. Okay. So these younger kids are just doing it as the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a reflection of how pornography is normalizing certain sex acts.
Mm-hmm.
And so with what's going on now with the fluentness of sexuality and stuff like that, these porn barriers, they're right there on it. They've always been on it. It's sex. And so even with the older stuff, you sit there and you're watching it when the man's climax and they're showing the man climax. I don't want to see this guy. What kind of crap is that? I'm watching this for the woman. Why do I have to see him grunting for 10 seconds?
Yeah.
And
I don't even want him to talk. Yeah.
They be all in the camera.
Yeah.
All in the video.
They the star of the show.
Yeah, like, bro, you are not the star here. Get out of the way. You know what I'm saying? But so even then, even with the older stuff, it had its issues. It had its issues. And so relative adjustment for time, that shit was weird for back then.
Yeah.
But I was too young to understand that shit was weird. And so when I'm coming up and I'm talking to these girls and I'm getting to know them and they telling me about their old situations and they're excited about how I do things. It's not because I'm some mandingo wild warrior, man. It's just because I'm regular.
Yeah.
And then guys that they used to deal with, they were super quick. They were either super quick or they what was the thing they would do? Oh, they would want to watch porn while they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They would want to do the stuff that was in porn, like be too aggressive while getting head. Bro, this is not a gag factor, whatever you're watching. Yeah. This is a normal girl.
Yeah.
She's normal. Yeah. And she's doing this because she likes you.
Yeah.
Don't try to choke her to death.
Yeah.
And so when I'm hearing these stories, it's like, oh shit, I don't do none of that. Like, I'm regular. Like, I get that you're a human, and I get that that's entertainment. So I'm not going to be out here top turnbuckle figure four-ing somebody because I saw, you know what I'm saying, Chris Benoit. That's a bad picture. You know, I see, you know,
Jeff Hardy.
Jeff Hardy. You know what I'm saying? Goddamn Hulk Hogan doing it. And I'm like, oh, all right. Chris Benoit, bad example.
Way back.
Way back. Hey, we're on the topic. Hell, because you're watching egregious people do egregious things and you're watching it like that's normal. Hey, man, if you can't watch that in the airport, that you shouldn't be watching that. You know, and this is another thing, too, by the way, with that stuff. If you can't do it in the open, should you be doing it when nobody else is around type of thing? Like, where's your personal integrity type of thing? And this is the things that I would ask myself, too, when I'm in those dirty corners. All right, so I ain't above this, but this is one of those things where it's just like, look, man, this is how you know this is an act that's not, shouldn't be crowned as something that's cool. Mm-hmm. Like, there's natural inherent shame on it. That's why you blast your music and you listen to the porn low. Yeah. I've seen memes of that. Mm-hmm. And that's people's life. So there is a natural inherent shame in doing such a thing because you know in the back of your mind, subconsciously, that you should be getting the real thing and not doing this.
Yes.
And so, to speak to what you're saying, those kids that are just getting introduced to this lifestyle and, you know, 11-year-old kid and OnlyFans is what their uncles is watching. It's what dad laughs at with his friends. And so when I get older, I'm going to pay for it too. Everybody's doing it. What's the big deal?
It's terrible.
And so if it's not OnlyFans, it's going to be the next entity after that. And the metaverse, bro, there's going to be all kinds of if Facebook is too PG for it, they're going to have a sex metaverse for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, Pornhub better be working on that now. They will be making people don't do memberships. They'll do memberships for that. They'll join for that, and trust believe there will be those people. We've seen it in movies, right? Where you know there's some hologram humping a guy or something. Oh
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that is precisely what I'm talking about when I say voluntary infertility. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
because when you're getting your rocks off to these simulations, do you know what's not happening? Actual pregnancies, like you know, so. It's just I find it all frightening. And one thing that I will sort of push back to you on is you mentioned that, you know, you're watching these sex acts when you know in the back of your mind you should be actually doing it. I think when it comes to younger generations, it's gotten so beyond the pale. If we talk about that lack of a filter, I think we're getting to the point where they're not even going to realize I shouldn't be doing it this way.
That's fair.
They're not even going to know. It's going to be, this is the way. You mean you're not watching your stuff? You don't have. I have a friend.
No, you're right. Go ahead.
I have a friend who works at a bank. Okay, she does a lot of different things, but when she started out working there, she works at a credit union rather, not a bank. But when she started out, she did direct customer service interface and she worked the virtual teller and all of that stuff. She said that it was very common for her to be working on a work day and somebody will come either inside or to the virtual teller and they'll try to talk to her about how some kind of fraudulent activity took place on their account. And when she pulls up their account, there will be all of these OnlyFans charges. OnlyFans here, OnlyFans there, Pornhub there, all of these porn charges. And these individuals feel shame, obviously, because they're acting as though they don't know where it came from. Bro, ain't nobody hack your account. You paid for this stuff. Ain't nobody do nothing to your account. You paid for this. That's why there's no fraudulent transaction. You subscribe to those pages.
What happens is, I don't know about OnlyFans, but those porn sites, because they got me before. And what you do, you put your credit card in. You put your credit card in because, like, bro, because I came up in a generation where you had to still go to stores. So when the internet was a thing, and this is dial-up days, all right. So it was like, hey man, y'all got the goods. This stuff looks like it's fire. All right, I'll pay the $9.99 or whatever right now. All right. So I paid that. What I didn't know is that I was paying for an recurring charge, like a recurring thing. And I was getting billed like all the time for it. And yes, I didn't even know it.
But what she would do, what she said was there would be several charges. No. So either you don't know, so either you're not checking your account for several months at a time because you've been hit with the recurring charge like 10 times.
Yeah.
So who doesn't check their account for that long? No one does that. Yeah. So you're knowingly getting charged. You're just trying to somehow plead with the credit union to say that it was a fraudulent charge to get your money back. Never. The point is, though, that she talked to me. She used to tell me whenever we would talk about our jobs. She still does it. We'll have these conversations, and she's like, "Oh man, this dude came in today talking about, he got a bunch of charges that aren't real, and I looked them up, and it's like OnlyFans or some other porn site." And she says it happens with enough regularity that this is a thing. The prevalence of it is very high, and so if I know just one person who works in a financial institution who encounters this on a regular basis, you can only imagine how often it's actually taking place. And so it stands to wonder, like, what are we dealing with here? And like I said, we talked, off camera one time, you talked to me about how, all of those ejaculations, you lose your essence. He was kind of having an offhand colloquial conversation, but how much of your essence are you losing, or rather wasting, because you're spending all your time wasting it on OnlyFans subscriptions? Like, bro, get off this stuff. And the thing about it is these women don't give a shit about you. They don't know who you are. They're going to placate to you by calling your name because they see you pop up because you just super chatted them or gave them a donation. But they don't they don't know you, bro. They don't give a shit about you.
She knows my screen name.
But if these interactions aren't leading to you being able to get into a room with this chick face to face and actually do this in person, you are you're setting yourself up for a lifelong relational failure. That's how I see it. And this is only becoming more and more normal and more prevalent. More and more of these guys are doing it, and it's not okay. I'm sorry, but it's not okay. It's like if women, Billie Eilish can have her brain wrecked, but Billie Eilish will still go to a bar or a club or a bowling alley or an arcade, and there will be guys who try to hit on her, who try to holler at her, who will try to approach her. You as a man, when you numb yourself into inactivity because you become so used to getting your rocks off because you're on OnlyFans and Pornhub and all of this other stuff, when you go to the bar or the arcade or the bowling alley or any of these other places, you're not doing anything. You're not approaching these women. You're not trying to get their numbers. You're not trying to do anything. You are numbing yourself into sexual inactivity. And when I use the word sexual, I mean it in the physical, traditional sense of actually having sex. You're numbing yourself into inactivity. And that's not good for people. It's not good for you as a man. And it's not good for her either, because the more and more that this takes place, the more and more that we're looking at a situation in which these women have no other option but to try and get the attention of a guy who already has 9, 10 other relationships, because the small percentage of men have all the options because all of these other guys aren't even trying to do anything.
No,
so, you got one guy who you're never going to get fidelity in relationships at this point, because what incentive does a guy who still seeks actual physical contact, what incentive does that guy have to be faithful or committed in a monogamous sense to one woman when he knows that he has 5 and 6 and 7 other options, because these women out of necessity are all trying to pine for his attention? So, these are some of the ramifications of this stuff. And I don't think on a large enough scale, we as people are considering these things. We don't realize what the consequences of adopting these types of lifestyles are going to have until it's too late. And we never consider the consequences. Social media has, how many car accidents today are at such a high clip because you have so many people who are driving distracted. You're on your phone and you're texting and you're on social media while you're driving. You're not even looking at the road. It's no wonder why you're getting into an accident. You think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when they were coming up with Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff, that they thought about that? Of course not. They thought they were doing a great thing for the world. Hey, let's create social media so that everybody can connect. But now you got people out here distracted driving and killing themselves. That's an unintended consequence. What's an unintended consequence of what we got going on with the proliferation of adult content and all of this normalized porn stuff is lack of relationships, lack of marriages, lack of children being born, lack of functional relational situations. This is an unintended consequences. And we're going to rue the day when we realize in the future that this shit is going too far, it's going to be too late. Because what you going to do? You can't get into a time machine and reverse this. So as long as we keep sitting around saying, oh man, the metaverse, great. Oh yeah, I'll put on an Oculus and pretend that I'm, riding a horse instead of actually learning how to ride a horse. I'll do all of this stuff. Technology's great. Yeah, cool. Technology's wonderful. Instagram, yeah. Let me make these superficial relationships that aren't even real because I live my life through technology. The more that we continue to do this, the worse off we're going to be.
Yep.
And you know what I'm saying? Like I said, when it comes, you can call me a stick in the mud. You got all of these hyper liberals who love everything new and progressive. Okay, you just wait, because this stuff is going to affect you at some point, whether it's your own kids who aren't going to produce grandchildren for you because they're caught up on OnlyFans and all of this stuff, but you want grandchildren. You loved everything new and progressive. You root for all of this stuff. What's the problem now? Your own kid doesn't want to give you grandchildren because they're not even interested in having sex for real. Now, do you think it's a good thing? Okay, but we keep saying we want all of this stuff until we don't want it no more. And so at a certain point, when do we catch it before it becomes too much of an issue or too much of an obstacle or hurdle to overcome? And you know what I'm saying? It might sound like I'm thinking too much into it, but personally, I don't think so. I don't think that I'm overblowing this. I think that this is really going on. This is really happening. And, it takes a man impregnating a woman in order for kids to be born. And the less men who are doing this is simple math. The less kids are going to be born. The less sex is going to be had. It's just, it's a simple calculus. And, we're not going to need a Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet to wipe out half the population because we're just going to end up doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, we're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah. And, those are just some of the takeaways that I had from her comments. Like I said, at least for her sake, she's a woman, so she still stands a chance. But a guy who is in the equivalent situation to her, he's as good as gone. That guy is dead. Unless he can find a way to come up out of it. So, these things just frighten me, bro. And I don't see an end in sight, which is the worst part about it. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to sort of reverse field on some of this stuff and just kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Like, hey man, this isn't okay. I should not be working hard and giving so much of my hard-earned money to OnlyFans subscriptions. Like, why do I have 5 OnlyFans subscriptions? Why? Why am I doing this? Not enough of us as men are saying this. We're just falling into the trap. We're plugging ourselves into the matrix.
Yeah, and I'll say this. So right now, dating apps are the norm for people. People use them as for whatever. I guess hooking up. I only use it to hook up. I don't know why other people use it.
Yeah.
And so, I've heard people have their success stories of them meeting.
Those are rare. Those are the exceptions. That's not the rule. Get out of here.
Right.
That's
and
not
so,
the rule.
To me, the only people I've encountered were people trying to hook up. So,
or people who have mental issues.
Or people who have mental issues, or both.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've witnessed on online dating apps. And I remember the stigma that was out there when they first came about. It was kind of shameful, actually, to be using those things. And then eventually Tinder became such a meme that it became normalized and cool.
Yeah.
And so then once that became a thing, it was just like, all right, well, what's the next dating app or whatever? And people still use Tinder, and people just talk swipe left, swipe right. Like that's just regular lifestyle.
Doing it mechanically. Yeah. It's a mechanical action. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a thing. People are doing that, and that's a reality for people. But to me, even that is that's normalizing something that's not normal.
Yeah.
And I'm not okay with that. And that's just what we're getting at with this day and age of people not being able to be social, have to have online personas, and catfishing. Like these are real dynamics. There's real people out there who are there's moments when I was first getting started, like Black Planet or whatever. I'm in Black Planet chat rooms going crazy in there. I'm like 12, 13 years old, maybe even 11. And I'm in there. I'm trying to have conversations with women, but they're not going to talk to. I'm doing asex location. ASL, man, ASL. And they're like, so I'm 17, I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm this. And I'm legit still. And so I was like, well, this is not going to work. So I had to lie about my age.
Yeah.
So I had to lie about my age just so I can get some play online. When I started doing that and I started to get the play, there was this thing in me that was like error. I couldn't do it. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like authentic. I didn't feel like me. What's going on, bro, is that there's so many people normalizing that kind of behavior that, like we were saying, there is no threshold anymore. It's just coming in unfiltered. So people going, so what? I made up a whole account that's not me. Big whoop. That's not a big whoop, bro. That's a personal problem.
Yeah.
You have a personal problem. That's not normal. You should address that. And people, you don't need a psychologist. You do need psychologists. Like honestly, people should go to the psychologist like they go to the dentist, like they go to their doctor.
Yeah, people need therapy. A lot.
People need therapy, right? Yeah. And so, but for the people that don't go to therapy, which is a lot, there's still ways where you can self-correct yourself by having some reflective moments. The reason why I can speak on these things is I've went through moments in my life where I'm introduced to certain concepts that could throw me left. As soon as I felt my body going left, like, what is this? This don't feel right. I just dropped it.
Yeah.
Then I watched the people continue to do whatever I was doing. And I said, thank God I dropped it. No wonder I dropped it. You know what I'm saying? And so for these people who aren't opposed to catfishing, I'll just make up a whole account. Oh no, I'll just lie on my profile up and down just so I can get some pussy or whatever. And it's just like, nah, man, why do you have to? First of all, you have to lie about everything. You have to lie about everything just to get some vagina. Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah,
that's the opposite of being a man. Honestly. Yeah. And so even for guys out here, oh yeah, I use this, I use that. It's like, bro, hey, listen, man. There's nothing like going out there and getting your own kill.
Yeah.
So, ethically, of course, going out there and setting up shop and knocking one down. And like, I saw a woman that I wanted. I went and talked to her. I got her number. I called her. Yeah. And we had a normal exchange. She'll be so grateful. Wow, a normal exchange. It's becoming rare now.
Yeah.
This is not a DM slide.
Yeah.
I remember when sliding in DMs was a thing. Like when that phrase became a thing. Where you sliding, that was shameful back then. Wow, why you got to do it like that? You trying to shoot your shot online through Instagram,
through an app, through Instagram, through social media,
messages. Back then, that was seen as whatever. Now that's the norm. Oh yeah, I was sliding in her DM. Yeah, she slid in mine. She slid in yours, bro? You know she's a predator then, right? Because only a predator woman will slide in your DM and be aggressive with you like that. So my whole thing is that there's been so much stuff that got normalized, bro, that I mean, we're on version 2 of something that shouldn't have been normalized.
Yeah.
We're on version 3 on some of those things. We're on 4.0 on some. And this is like, oh man, I remember when that first got introduced when I was in high school. I said no back then. I'm saying no now. Look at what it's turned into now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so honestly, bro, porn is just an extension of that. This case here, I just feel as though, and just to tie to my point, because I hear yours 100% and I agree, and just to tie back into my point, I just feel as though this is a microcosm. I'm glad she was able to see it at 20, and I'm glad she's able to be the person she is and to reflect on her addiction at such a young age. So people her age who thought it was normal, who thought it was cool. Hey, I thought BDSM was cool. It's not.
It's not.
You're watching the wrong stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Oh man, come on, man. You just nah, bro. If you need that kind of stimulation, I don't know what you want right now. Mm-hmm. Because when you have a regular wife at the house, y'all not doing that, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The woman that wants to get her, put your foot on her head while y'all doing something, that's not. If that's your wife, bro, she's somebody else's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Say it like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's just like I said, I just look into the future and I just see what the consequences of this is moving forward, and that's just what frightens me the most. We all got our problems. I know when we get on some of these videos and we talk about how dysfunctional relationships are, we say women do this and that's messed up, and men do this and that's messed up. But at the end of the day, it's like whatever we're going to cite in terms of why the situation is what it is, we're not doing an adequate job of having that reflective moment, gaining the self-awareness necessary to take a step back and say, how am I contributing to this dysfunctionality, and what can I do? What role can I play? How can I do my part to sort of dial this back a little bit? So we all messed up here. But this right here, this stuff to me is the biggest of all the problems, because it's just like human beings are social. We're social creatures by nature, social in the traditional sense of face-to-face interpersonal communication. Yes, so I'm not trying to hear all of this social media. Social media has made the human race more impersonal and antisocial. Yes. And it's created this environment where people only know how to communicate within these respective prisms, and that's not healthy for actual communication. And when you mix sexual deviancy, porn, and all of that into it, you're throwing all of this stuff into a pot, and it's leading to, as I said, what eventually I believe is going to become voluntary infertility.
And I would say it's turning the people the clinical version of antisocial, not the colloquial version of it.
Yeah, either. The version where you need help. Like, the
clinical version.
People, man, I took one semester at FAMU. I was in a journalism school, and I'll never forget this, man. One of the teachers that I had, her name was Dr. Valerie White, and we were doing one of these journalism assignments, and she was talking about dysfunctionality mentally, and she was like, man, I don't think people realize how many people are walking the streets in normal society that need mental help.
Yes.
That need therapy. People need help to work through a lot of this stuff. Yes. There is a lot of mental illness is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it it sucks because, as a man trying to navigate this, your own mental illness does not help the situation. You're exacerbating all of the challenges that you already have in front of you. You're making the problem worse for yourself. It's unfortunate, man. I think, the consequences of this for men are more dire than they are for women, but everyone has consequences to be had when it comes to this kind of stuff. And, I can only hope that people like Billie Eilish can serve as an example for someone or some people out there who can say, maybe this ain't all right.
Yeah.
That's really all I can do. That's really all I can hope. And just, have my own kids and just, I don't give a damn. I'm going to be that. I'm going to have parental locks on everything. Like, you're not watching. No, you're not watching this stuff. It's going to be parental locks. It's going to be a G14 classified CIA password that you ain't going to be able to find. You're not going to be unlocking porn on the TV. Your phone is going to be blocked. I don't give a damn. Yes, I'm going to be a parent who controls that. And I don't give a shit what any of these liberals have to say about it. Like, I'm going to control these aspects of my kids' life so that they don't grow up screwed up. Period. It's going to be all day. I'm going to control the phone. It's all kinds of ways. Like, you can get your kid a phone, but block access to certain things and check their activity to see what they're doing. Yeah, I'm going to be watching all of that. Because if I don't, I'm going to raise a son who's watching Pornhub and on OnlyFans at 10 years old. And I'm just not going to, I just don't. Yeah. That's just not for me. And I'm not going to raise my household that way. And I have the right to do that because it's my household, not yours. So, get off my lawn. But we'll go ahead and end the stream on that note, man. Good luck to all of the people out there who are trying to traverse this whole relationship issue, because you're dealing with problems that are bigger than yourself, whether you realize it or not. If this video can serve as anything that can help you, then, it was, we more than did our job on this stream for the night. But either way, man, you can catch the channel. Full content library is available on consciousapproach.com. You can also follow Conscious Approach on the Instagram page at ConApproach, ConApproach. You can find me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS, as well as on Facebook at Javis Ogden, JVISOGDEN, and also on Twitter at Javis Ogden as well. Follow all of the channels to stay up to date on content that we continue to drop. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please hit the share button, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I appreciate it. It's free, doesn't cost you anything to hit that like button, so I appreciate that. If you're watching it on Facebook, once we upload the video to Facebook, hit the share button, hit the like button. Certainly appreciate that as well. We're trying to troubleshoot a couple things when it comes to the technical aspects of the stream. So if the audio blipped out when we played the Billie Eilish portion, I'm going to have a link to that in the description box so that you can watch it there. The clip that we played is beginning at the 1 minute 45 second mark to the 3 minute mark. So from 1 minute 45 seconds to 3 minutes. Listen to that. It'll give you some context for the clip that we played when she talked about what she talked about on the Howard Stern show before we went into that particular portion of the stream. So that's just an FYI. But until then, man, I'm JV Wins. Keep it locked, man, and I appreciate you supporting logical content.
Yes, sir. And the name is Dogon, SS. All right, Dogon, not doggone. All right, it's Dogon. All right? And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS. All right, also here on YouTube at Dogon SS. All right, just go ahead and hit the subscription button. All right, new videos will be on the way. All right, 2022 is going to be a movie. All right, and your boy JV Wins and Dogon SS will be starring in it. All right, so just go ahead and subscribe to both channels. And remember, keep it chill, keep it player. And as far as the reflection on today's content, I think you guys heard at least my angle. Try your best. And that's what any type of entertainment, quote unquote, I'm going to put air quotes on entertainment. Because any type of entertainment you watch, all right, it is shaping and molding you in some capacity. So if you're going to choose to watch something that you either know you shouldn't be watching or listen to some music that you go, I should be listening to something more motivational outside of this or what have you, that's cool. If you're going to listen to it, have a filter with you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And filter the stuff out. You can do that. All right. Take the good aspects of it, drop the bad. All right.
Yeah.
I be out here gathering techniques when
Yeah.
I'm watching some of that stuff, and my old lady loves it. All right. So there's benefits of it. Yeah, there's benefits of it if used in a way that makes some sense.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
If you're going to be dabbling, do it responsibly.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Just be responsible with it. And we just don't have enough people who are responsible. That's the problem. And responsibility, like judgment and all of these things, those are basic fundamental skills. And these young people, these kids, they're growing up and they're not developing those basic skills. And so when you don't have the fundamentals, where are you at? You know what I'm saying? Like, you related to sports, you can have all the raw athletic abilities, but if you can't dribble with your left hand, if you can't finish left or right, if you don't know how to have the right form with the jumper, follow through, make sure that you follow through. If you don't have those fundamental skills locked down, you're not going to be a great player. You'll just be somebody who had potential, but you fizzled out. And so it's those fundamentals that we're lacking, man. Use this stuff in moderation, be responsible about it, and have the filter. But you should not be replacing making contact with women in person with these various outlets. You should not be doing that. If you're a man, you should not be doing this. And if you know that you're doing this, you need to stop. Get some therapy, figure out how you can overcome whatever mental affliction that you got going on with this kind of stuff. Get out of there. If you ask me, like I've always said, you don't need to be DMing women on social media at all. I'll stick to my ground. I'm gonna stand my ground on that. I believe that. Don't DM, liking these chicks, following them on social media. Stop trying to text them or message them on these apps. Get off OnlyFans. I believe you shouldn't be. I don't believe any man should be on OnlyFans, period. But I know that that'll never happen. I know that that's unreasonable. People gonna use it. But in my opinion, I don't think men should be on it at all. I wish that it could be abolished, but it is what it is. But keep it G, keep it trill, keep it neutral. Be responsible. Keep support logical content. And until next time, JB Wins, Dogon SS. We signing off. We'll see you on the next stream. But until then, man, peace.